Good morning. Good morning, friends. Welcome to the Boise Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. We are a spiritually diverse, justice-seeking religious community proclaiming the power of love at the core of our living tradition. Love of neighbor, love for ourselves, and love of our planet. I'm the Reverend Sara LaWall. I use she, her pronouns, and it is my great honor to serve this beloved community as your minister. Wherever you are on your spiritual journey, you are welcome here. Whomever you love, however you identify, you are welcome here. Whatever faiths you have known, if any, whatever doubts you carry, you are welcome here. Today, for those of you that don't know or that are new to us, today is our annual Apple Communion service. This is an annual tradition for us, a time of community connection and celebration and gratitude for the bounty we share together in a beloved ritual of eating apples together. And I'm especially delighted today to be able to share this service with my dear friend, spiritual drag artist and digital chaplain, Bonnie Violet. You can't miss Bonnie Violet this morning. She sparkles wherever she goes. There's no better way that I can think of to infuse this service and our community with some much needed joy than by celebrating the power and the joy of drag. And that is why Bonnie Violet is with us this morning. For those of you that don't know Bonnie Violet, she is a force for joy in our community. She is one of the founders of Trans Joy Boise that helped organize our first ever trans march that kicked off Pride Weekend for us back in September. They also organized the Trans Day of Remembrance event with the burning of the temple just this past Wednesday. She's created the Drag is Not a Crime fashion show and fundraiser, for which we were a sponsoring organization. And I got to walk the runway with the drag artist, so that was really cool. She is also the founder of the Drag and Spirituality Summit, which explores the intersections of faith, drag, spirituality, and ritual, and the host of several podcasts. You can find them all on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts, so you can keep following her joy after today. Some of you might remember Bonnie Violet when she was with us a little more than a year ago for our drag service. We're so happy to have her back again. This is a multi-generational service this morning when children and adults, we all come and worship together. And we know that sometimes it can be a little challenging for younger people to pay attention throughout a whole service. So we understand and expect and appreciate some restlessness. But we also invite you to go visit our playground in the back with Travis out there. With activities related to today's service, Travis has put together some fabulous activities that are related to the Apple Communion today. I think making pipe cleaner apple trees. Grown-ups, you're invited too. If we all get a little restless sometimes, if you need to go make a pipe cleaner apple tree, please feel free. Let's take a moment to welcome our online community, those worshiping with us via Zoom. And then while you're waving, look around the room and find someone that you haven't seen in a bit, that you recognize and wave. Find someone that you don't know. Make a little eye contact and say, and give them a wave too. Hello, friends. And friends on Zoom, we invite you to turn your cameras on so that we can say good morning to you. Good morning, Rhett and Trish. Good morning, Edith and Wanda and Brian. Good morning, Alex's iPhone. Good morning, Jane and Terry Kay and Kathy. It's so wonderful to have all of you. Thank you. We are reminded that we worship together as one beloved community beyond the walls of this sanctuary. Newcomers, welcome. We're so glad that you've chosen to join us this morning. We know it takes a lot of courage to check out a new community, especially in these times, and we're glad you've chosen us. We invite those of you that are in person with us to hang around today and introduce yourselves to us during our hospitality time so that we can warmly welcome you. If you're on Zoom, you can do that in the chat. We invite you to fill out our newcomer form so that we can keep you posted with everything that is happening in our fellowship. A couple of announcements for the whole community. Everyone's invited to stick around after the service today for our second annual International Holiday Bazaar down at the end of the North Wing there. This is the second time we've invited new Americans and refugee craftsmen and people representing refugee craftspeople in other countries to come and sell their crafts and jewelry and beautiful things, and so you can start your holiday shopping early. Those of you that are like me and don't do it till the last second, get started early and you can support these beautiful local artisans. We're really delighted to have them here and to help support our diverse, beautiful community in that way. We're also sponsoring some refugee families for the holiday season, and so if you go into either of the entryways, you can see Christmas trees with tags on them, and you're invited to take a tag and purchase the gift on that tag, unwrapped, 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 don't wrap. Bring it back here, and that gets compiled with a number of other communities that are sponsoring families this morning. So we hope that you'll all join us in participating in that. Each week, we center ourselves and begin our time together in worship by lighting our flaming chalice, the symbol of our free faith, a beacon of hope, love, and justice, a reminder of the light of strength and refuge and the divine light that shines in each and every person. Whenever we share in the lighting of our chalice, we remember the promise we make to each other to keep building the beloved community, to keep holding on to hope for a brighter future as we light the way together. So as Bonnie Violet lights our chalice here in our sanctuary, I invite those of you in our virtual community to light a chalice or a candle if you have one nearby this morning, and then share with us in the chat where it is you've lit your chalice this morning. Thank you. Today is a service that is focused on joy. And while we are still reeling from election results and navigating the fear and the grief and the anger and despair, we still make room for joy. For joy in the face of fear and pain is itself an act of resistance. So let's start our resistance together by singing our gathering hymn, Enter, Rejoice, and Come In. Now, those of you who have been with me before, you know that I have some movements that I like to do with this song. So I'm going to invite you in to the spirit of joyful movement. Let's rise and body your spirit. I'm going to talk you through these movements before we get started real quick. Okay, those of you who've been here before, you know what the movements are, so you're going to be big about it, right? Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Today will be a joyful day. It's really easy. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Open your ears to the song. Open your ears to the song. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Open your heart, everyone. Open your heart, everyone. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Don't be afraid of some change. Don't be afraid of some change. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Okay. That's what it's going to be like. Let's not get out of breath yet. Tech booth, is my lapel mic on? Okay, I just want to check and make sure that I can walk away from that pulpit mic. Okay, Carrie, we're ready. Here we go, friends. We start with Enter, Rejoice. Here we go. Enter. Joyful day. Enter. Open your ears to the song. Joyful day. Enter. Open your hearts, everyone. Joyful day.
We come from and live on land considered sacred by many indigenous peoples, known as Bannock, Shoshone, Paiute, and many other tribes that lived here sustainably for thousands of years, inhabiting a vast region including much of Idaho.
We recognize the long history of the land, long before colonization, and acknowledge the ancient tribes whose names have been lost in history.
With this acknowledgement, we wish to demonstrate our commitment to dismantling the legacies of settler colonialism. We honor Indigenous peoples' connection to the land and support their right to sovereignty.
In the challenges of these truths, may we move through the world bringing justice in every way that we can, listening to the truths spoken to us by Native American peoples, making space for them to re-inhabit this place, and giving them back the resources they need to heal their communities.
I'm still a little out of breath. How you doing? Our spiritual theme for this month of November is living love through the practice of repair. And with our focus on joy today, we're exploring how joy can be a practice of repair, especially when so many of our beloveds have been harmed by their government, by their religious communities, by their families, who are continued targets of threats and violence just for being who they are, or reading to kids, or dancing. So when we create welcoming and inclusive spaces that honor and celebrate queerness and drag and the joy of being exactly who we know ourselves to be, especially in a church, we contribute to repairing that harm done by others. And in the process, we get to receive some of that joy too. So this is what we're doing today with our Drag Church Apple Communion, welcoming joy into our midst, creating joy together in our midst, and celebrating the powerful, joyful resistance we create as community. Because drag itself is also joyful resistance. Drag is more than just a performance. It is about self-expression and liberation. Drag is counter-cultural and celebratory while pushing back against the rigid societal norms and binaries around gender expression, femininity and masculinity, humanity, what it means to be human and live your life fully. Drag is a community and a movement. These are two of the very same words we often use to describe Unitarian Universalism, a community of solidarity and sometimes protection, and a movement for survival and connection. And as members of the LGBTQ+ community, drag artists continue to endure some of the most awful and intense hate in words and actions across our country. And they too are afraid of what the future of this country holds for them. So we Unitarian Universalists do what we do when we see injustice rise up. We push back. We say, not here, not in our house, in our sanctuary, because we mean it whenever we say, whoever you are, whomever you love, however you identify, wherever you are on your spiritual journey, you are welcome here. We say drag is divine. And we say those words and we work to live out those words in our lives because we believe that spark of the divine, however you define that for yourself, that spark that is inherent worth and dignity resides in each and every one of us. Full stop. When we invite drag into our church spaces, claiming it as spiritual expression and divine presence, we are practicing that radical hospitality, that wide welcome, that deep neighbor love that we regularly profess as a faith. So your presence here today, in person and online, your presence matters. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being part of this community. and this joyful resistance. So as we enter into this time of worship together, let's all take a breath together. Fill your body with breath, knowing that our breath connects us to one another, to ourselves, to our planet. Our breath offers us the opportunity for stillness, to tune in to our spiritual center and listen deeply to our heart's own longing. As you hear the words of our opening poem this morning, I invite you to hear the thines and thous as spoken to joy itself. Thou art the song of my heart in the morning. Thou art the dawn of truth in my soul. Thou art the dew of the roses adorning. Thou art the woven whole. Thine is the grace to be steadfast in danger. Thine is the peace that none can destroy. Thine is the face of the need-riven stranger. Thine are the wings of joy. Thou art the deep, to the deep in me calling. Thou art a lamp where my feet shall tread. Thy way is steep past the peril of falling. Thou art my daily bread. Thine be the praise of my spirit uplifted. Thou art the sea to each flowing stream. Thine be the days that are gathered and sifted. Thou art the deathless dream.
God is a storyteller, a lover composing a letter, and every word is hope and light and glory. This is the awesome endeavor, justice that flows forever, but fear and shame will interrupt the story. Shame is a blight on our vision, implicates us in vain competition. The imprint of fear on our hearts is how it all starts to break down. So we're set on a course for collision. We succumb to the way of division. All of us bullies and victims on the playground. I'm not ashamed. I will not cave. My spirit rises. I am for you to listen, subvert you with artful suspicion. Who wouldn't chase after heaven when the living feels like hell? So they call you a name of derision instead of the one you were given. But please remember, your life is not their story to tell. I'm not ashamed. I will not cave. My spirit rises. I am brave. I share the mark burned on my heart. My hope remains. I am not ashamed. Not ashamed, no,
Our call to worship this morning is from the Reverend Gretchen Haley. Come in, all who are long to know how to love this world, how to keep eyes open, hands unclenched, arms wide, breathing deeply, in and out.
This is a time to practice because there is still so much good and beauty and joy.
But it can be hard to keep telling this tale with all the news and the wind and the rain and the trembling earth. Who wants to love this life anyway?
Come in, all who teeter on the edge of cynicism, broken-hearted and still trying to remember laughter and kindness and the chance to be alive in these days when so much is at stake.
In this place, we remind each other why we persist, giving each other courage to take this path that is not always easy.
To keep practicing this love that cannot, will not let us go. This love that still calls us on. Come, let us worship together. Friends, in the spirit of worshiping together in this multi-generational worship service, I want to invite my young friends to take a break at the playground and come join me up front for this story time. I'm glad you're having a good time over there. You can bring your pipe cleaner apple trees if you want. Come on down. Good morning. Have any of you here, any of you ever been to a story time with the drag queen? You have, really? Yeah. Any of you ever been to story time with the drag queens? I'm telling you, it's one of the most fun story times that I have ever been to. And over the past few years, our government, our state government, and other governments across the country have been passing bills to try to stop drag time story time. And they're saying really awful and hateful and terrible things. And we have a group right here in Idaho, in Pocatello and Idaho Falls, which is just a few hours from here, about 3 hours from here. and they're called Reading Time with the Queens. And they do, every week they do something really awesome. Bonnie Violet's been with them to read a story and do Reading Time with the Queens. It's an entire program for kids. And a few weeks ago, and they've been the target of some protesters for the last while. And in fact, they had to leave the library because the protesting was getting too much. And they found home at local bookshops and coffee shops where it felt like it was a little bit more out of the public fray in a private business. But just after the election, they started to get word that there was some chatter that there were going to be protesters at their next story time, at their next drag queen story time. And so they put a call out to their community, to all of the people who knew about them, to say we could use some extra helpers this time with colorful rainbow umbrellas to help create a safe space for our families and our kids to come into story time and to kind of help block out the protesters. And 50 people showed up with rainbow umbrellas. There's a picture right there. Look at all those people. And I love this story because this story just made my heart so happy in the days after this election, when everybody was feeling so tense and so worried and so scared, that there are that many people, probably more than the number of people that were going to show up and protest, who are willing to come and say, not in our town, and help create a safe space for the families and the kids, and also for the drag artists themselves. So our story time today, I wanted to frame our story time. Our story time today is from a drag artist with the Human Rights Commission. Her name is Akasha Royale, and she is going to read a story for us, and we're going to watch it on the video. So wherever you want to be comfortable, just watch.
Sometimes it's really scary to stand out and be different. But today we're going to read about Peter the Peacock, a bird who didn't fit in with his flock, but learned to love himself. And listen, when you look this good, you learn to love yourself too. Everybody say love! Love! Hello, all my beautiful people, and welcome to Drag Storytime. My name is Akasha Royale, and I am from St. Louis, Missouri. You might know us from that big, beautiful Gateway Arch. And today, we're going to be reading A Peacock Among Pigeons, written by Tyler Curry and illustrated by Clarion Gutierrez. This is dedicated to all the peacocks who can't fit in. Be proud, stand out. My name is Peter, and I was born a peacock. Don't ask me how it happened, but somehow, someway, I grew up in a flock of pigeons. And being a peacock in a family of pigeons isn't easy at all. You see, pigeons don't always like others who are different. Sometimes, pigeons can treat other birds like they're not good enough, just because they don't look the same or fly the same. They can call them names and make them feel like they are strange, weird, or they don't belong. My pigeon flock thought I walked funny. They thought I talked funny. And they said my feathers were too colorful for a boy bird like me. And when you grow up with no other peacocks around, it can be easy to think they're right. I spent a long time hiding my colorful feathers and pretending I was a pigeon. I tucked my feathers away and covered myself with mud and dirt to hide my bright colors. I walked upright like a pigeon. I puffed out my chest like a pigeon. And I kept my tail from swishing and swaying so no one would notice how different I was. But it was no use. Whenever I relaxed, one of my flashy feathers would slip out. Everyone would notice, point, and laugh. My pigeon friends would call me names. They would pretend to walk like me and make fun of my voice. Even though I acted like them, any beak with two eyes could see I didn't belong. One day, when no pigeons were around, I walked by a puddle and looked at my reflection. The bird I saw looking back was an ugly bird. He was flashy, flamboyant, and embarrassing. I thought my blues were too blue, my greens were too green, and my gold hues were far too girly for a boy bird to have. I believed what the other pigeons said, and I didn't like the bird staring back at me. But there was no use trying to be a pigeon, because I'd never be able to change my feathers. It was time to fly out on my own. At first, My journey was a lonely one, but one day I met a cardinal named Craig. He was sassy and bold. He told me funny stories that made me laugh and laugh. He didn't seem to mind being around a peacock like me. I'm a little sassy and bold too. Craig introduced me to his canary friend Sara. Sara was very friendly and had a sing-song voice that made me smile. Do you know what she told me? She thought my feathers were beautiful. So beautiful, in fact, she wanted to introduce me to Owen the owl. Owen was smart, Owen was sophisticated, Owen moved like no bird I had ever seen before. He said he liked the way I moved too. Craig, Sara, and Owen introduced me to more of their friends, each unique and beautiful in their own way. You see them? They're on the way. They're gonna go find some friends. Let's find out who they find. There was Fanny the flamingo, who made even me feel plain and ordinary with her dazzling pinks and whites. There was Henry the hummingbird, who never finished a sentence before fluttering away. There was Benny the blue jay, who was the fastest bird I'd ever seen. And there was Penny the parrot, who was very nice and loved to talk. There were so many different birds, some bold, some smart, and some funny. But each one was special in their own way, just like you. On one very special day, I came upon a beautiful bird I had never seen before. He had the brightness of yellow like Sara, my canary friend, and the boldness of blue like Benny the blue jay. His tail swished back and forth like he was dancing, and his feathers had a beautiful starry glow. On top of his head, he had a funny crown of feathers that fluttered about. He was the most beautiful bird I had ever seen. I just had to take a closer look, so I took a few steps closer, but the beautiful bird disappeared. Instead, I saw the ripples of the puddle I had just stepped in. I squinted my eyes in disbelief. It was my own reflection. But could it really be me? For so long, I saw what the pigeons saw. And although my feathers never changed, I saw myself differently. After meeting new birds who were special and liked me for the peacock I am. I wasn't just a silly blue bird with flashy feathers and a funny walk. My flamboyant tail, filled with bright colors, no longer embarrassed me. And I didn't want to be just like the rest of my pigeon flock. I was happy to be me. Whether you were as bright as a canary, as cool as a cardinal, or as flashy as a flamingo, your feathers are what make you special. So embrace who you are, from beak to bird feet, and never let anyone break your stride. And always remember, love the feathers you were born with. Peter the peacock. When Peter realizes that he loves himself no matter what all the other birds say, that's called pride. Every bird and person is different, and those differences are what make us special.
Isn't that a cool story? A story about being who you are and celebrating your boldness and your beauty. And so, friends, when you have moments that you feel like maybe you don't belong, do you ever have those moments? Maybe? Be like Peter the peacock. And it isn't just that Peter learned to love himself, it was that Peter learned to love himself because he found a community that helped him love himself for exactly who he was. And we have that community. We have many communities like that. You know, when I'm feeling like I'm a little bit too much, and I'm a little too intense, and I'm not feeling like I belong, that's when I go hang out with the drag artists. Then I feel pretty fabulously ordinary. And I can bask in their fabulousness. So we're gonna sing together so that we can remember to always shine our light. We're gonna sing This Little Light of Mine so we can remember to shine our beautiful light wherever we are. Let's rise and body your spirit together. Words on the screen. Y'all know this one, right, though? This little light, everywhere I go, building up the world. Hey.
Hello, hi everyone. Yes, thank you for saying hi back. It really helps. As you noticed, I'm not one of those drag queens that are like super exuberant, reading books. You know, like for me, I put all this on. I put this all on. Oftentimes, I struggle to come out of myself, and I struggle to be somebody who can go talk to strangers and do that sort of thing. And so when I put this on, even when I'm not feeling so cute, I see people light up, and I see people smile, and I see people respond to how I'm looking, and that fills me with that same energy and that joy. And so I kind of trick myself and set myself up to experiencing a little bit of joy by robbing it from you all, and maybe a few rhinestones. It's really great. This Little Light of Mine is a very special song to me. I mean, I think anyone who grew up in like Sunday school probably heard that song a lot. It's also a song that I sung at my nephew's funeral, and so which is also what inspired me to get back into, as a queer person, to really seek spirituality again. The death of my nephew and the experience that I had with him and the family really just reminded me and taught me that even though I was a queer person, I could still show up as a kind, spiritual human being in some really powerful ways, and maybe even a little bit better because of my queerness, at least in certain settings and certain environments. And so I think this idea of joy as a practice of repair is a very interesting thought. As Sara was talking and introducing me, she said that I was kind of a joy junkie, or like, I think that might not have been her words, but that's what I heard. And so I have definitely been grasping for joy the last year or two as kind of a response to what is happening in my life and just in the world as a whole. And I've really saw it as a part of, like, something to be a part of life and a part of existing. I think a lot of my younger years, I always was like, so church was the place I landed where I guess I first sought joy and happiness and peace, because I didn't have that at home and I didn't have that at school growing up in Wendell, Idaho. And so like church was like my safe place. And so I think I learned really young to, I don't know, like I was one of those people that tended to look for the shinier, happier things, in a way that wasn't real. I would just, life would happen, life would get difficult, and I would just get over it. I thought, I would just put on a face and get through it. And, it's really a lot of, I think, what I was taught as a kid, growing up in poverty in a small town in a trailer, you learned to just make good with what you had. And it was a really great experience, but I think it also, I don't know, it just kind of set me up to have a different experience in life. And it took me a while to get to the point in life where I could actually be honest with myself that that things were hard sometimes, and that things were difficult, and that there were harms that were done to me, whether intentional or not. And in order for me to really get through them and to get on the other side of them, I had to really acknowledge them and sit with them a little bit. And so I couldn't, quote unquote, escape into joy any longer, because that was something that I did. I escaped into the club scene and queer life and even drag to some degree. Drag is where I escaped to. I'm also a trans woman, and drag was a safe place for me to find her in and to find myself in. And so as I've gotten older, and I think joy, I don't know, I think like for me too, I think my mother always said I was a fickle person, which some people might not know what that word means, but you kind of like fall in and out of love and like quickly. I get bored easily, which is why I'm single most of the time. Not at the moment though, not at the moment. And so like in that fickleness, I think, and just in the chasing of the joy and all that, I think it's lost its shine. Like the things that gave me joy in the way that they used to, they don't anymore. And part of that is is that, having to sit with some of the more difficult things. Last year, if you all were here, you might have heard me talk about my relationship with my family. And my father hasn't spoken to me in years because I'm trans. It's been a really difficult thing for me, and it was something that I really had to kind of protect my heart from and guide myself and really just stay away and keep some distance. My mom's also been dealing with cancer the last couple of years. And last summer she asked me, to not come around because my transness was difficult for her and for the family. So she's been dealing with cancer on her own, or without me, in a way that I want to show up for her. And so it's been a really interesting way to show up for a way that she would like me to show up rather than how I would like to show up. And so it's been just text messages, and I sent a care package earlier this week, and I actually got a text on I guess it was just the other night. It was on Friday night after watching Wicked, which you should check out because there's a lot in there as well. A little tangent, but also connected. Elphaba, who is the star and the main character, and an unlikely, I think, channel of good, has a way of, I think, Galinda, the good witch, isn't so kind, and sometimes just a little bit of kindness from her. Elphaba is willing to kind of like take that and run with it and get a lot from that, which, depending on how you look at it, you could take it a lot of different ways, but I think for me, I kind of had my own experience with that. I got a text message from my dad's phone, and it was my mom telling me to go to the Chevron near the airport because they were waiting there for to pick up my uncle at the airport. And so I went and sat in a car with my father and my mother, and my dad hasn't looked at me or acknowledged me or been in the same room with me for years. And he actually acknowledged that I was there. He didn't say anything much to me, and I was their son, and I was the name they've always, and uncle this, and all these sorts of things. But I was just so happy to, one, see my mother, even though she's, lost all her hair, and she's really in a difficult space with her cancer. And so it was difficult to see, but also I just loved that I got to be in her presence and got to be with her. And I was kind of happy that my dad was there too. And even though it wasn't quite what I wanted, I was able to kind of tap into the joy and really focus on that and let go of all the rest. 4 months ago, I did not have a kind word to say about my father, and I probably would have told him so. And I wouldn't have, what I mean? I made a major effort to just kind of stay away. And I'm just really grateful that, through time and also through living my life anyways, through, doing drag, through doing the trans march, seeing 1,300 people show up for trans people in Boise, Idaho was pretty powerful. And that was something that I needed to help me feel a little bit more comfortable with being in the world. And so I think all of those sorts of things, all this chasing of the joy, becoming a joy junkie, I think really set me up to be in that moment where I could be surrounded by stuff that was really difficult, but be really just tap into the joy that was there and let that kind of take over. And so I think joy used to be this big, huge kind of ecstatic, ecstasy kind of experience, and sometimes it's just a little hint, and it's just the taste that I need, to kind of continue to repair relations with myself, with my family, and with we're in church, so God or whatever. Thank you so much.
Wait, can you go back one slide, Philip? I just want to show this picture, have y'all just look at this picture for a moment, because when Bonnie Violet is in full sparkles and walks down the street, this is what happens. And it happened to some of you when you walked in today. you kind of stop in your tracks, and then you notice that smile just kind of brightens up. It is a way that she brings joy to the people, to anyone, especially the young people. One of my favorite stories was this September in the Pride Parade. We're marching in the Pride Parade, a whole passel of faith communities, one behind the other. We were at the very end of the parade. And Bonnie Violet and Miss Kelly G were walking with us in that crew because we'd all just come from doing the interfaith worship service, Pride worship service together. And we're marching, and every time we'd kind of pass a crowd of people, Bonnie Violet and Miss Kelly G were in front of the booth folks and the banner, the crowd would just freak out. Like there was just this wave of screaming, and I was like, what? This is so joyful. What is happening? And I turn and look, and there were young people and young teenagers in the crowd, and they were just, it was like Taylor Swift was in the parade. That was the level, the fever pitch. And then I put it together. I realized that Bonnie Violet and Kelly G were walking ahead, in full regalia, and these young people were losing their minds with joy at the sight of them. And it was magical to behold that. So, Bonnie Violet, I said you are a force for joy in our community. You can be a joy junkie too. I think I've become the joy junkie in your presence. It's the other way around. When I was young, I grew up bouncing around to Protestant churches with my dad and my stepmom and my two sisters, and we would go to church. And we went to one of those old fancy churches, the red carpet and the red pews and the white chancel and the white building, but we would each get $1 to put into the offering plate during the offering time. And I remember feeling so grown up and so excited at being able to put my $1 in the offering plate, just like the adults next to me. It felt important, and it also was just a small moment of joy. And generosity is joyful. It fills us up, our hearts and our spirits. It gives us a sense of purpose and connection. It also has health benefits. Did you know? Generosity reduces blood pressure, anxiety, and depression, and, according to the interwebs, lowers the risk of dementia. So when we give every week, we are doing you a service. But we give because we help contribute to the repair of our community and the repair of our world, saying yes to building the beloved community within and beyond our walls, committing ourselves to do the work for justice and compassion for all people in our earth. This month, we share our offering gifts with our own refugee and immigrant justice ministry team as an expression of that commitment to living out our faith in the world. I invite the ushers to please come forward, and friends, I thank you in advance for lowering your risk of dementia and giving generously. As our ushers bring our offering gifts forward, I invite all of us to join together in blessing our gifts. We bless these gifts so freely given. May generosity always be our companion as we walk the holy path toward ever greater compassion and beauty. Thank you. Recently, I've come to the epiphany that there is no place more joyful than at a drag show. This year, my birthday fell on the very last day of the Treefort Music Festival, which my husband and I attend faithfully every year. It's our annual church. And my friends asked what I wanted to do for my birthday, and I said, I want to go to Dragfort. Dragfort's the drag brunch that happens on the last day of Treefort. It is really magical. The tent is packed with people and kids, and everyone is screaming and singing and clapping, and the fans are going, and the energy is contagious and powerful. Back in 2023, Treefort started the day after Governor Little signed the ban on gender-affirming healthcare for youth. We had worked so hard advocating, lobbying, telling our stories, bringing doctors along, making endless phone calls, inviting business owners to make phone calls. And when he signed that bill, it felt like a world-ending moment for me. I wasn't sure if my heart or my spirit would recover. Feels a little similar to how things are right now. But we had those tickets, and we were faithful attendees to Treefort, so I was determined to enjoy it. We parked and began walking into the park, and I found myself on that walk taking these big gulping breaths of air, willing myself to kind of shed all of the anger and the frustration and the pain and the sadness and try to be present in the joy, the very real joy that is Treefort, that has become such a beautiful balm for me. And after I was done with my little breathing exercise, I looked around as we were walking in, and I realized that we were walking in this sea, into the park, in this sea of drag artists all around us. I think they were walking to go do an event. And I burst into tears. I burst into tears, buoyed by the presence and intensity of their joy. And so thankful for this space, this Treefort space that lives its motto with such intention and radical welcome. Treefort is for everyone, and they truly mean it. And walking in with those drag artists smiling, taking up space, turning heads as they walked, just felt like the exact right place where I needed to be and where I needed to remember there was still joy around me. When I'm with drag artists and when I'm watching a drag show, it feels like no matter what is happening out in the world, it can't touch us because our joy creates this kind of force field. It truly feels like joyful resistance. I watch these drag performers put their entire selves, their bodies, hearts, and souls into their work with such a fierceness, claiming their own power, claiming their own belonging in a world that tries so hard to erase them. And in those moments, I am reminded that it is worth the fight, that there can be powerful joy in the fight, and that in community, anything is possible. When I watch the videos of Reading Time with the Queens and the Dragon Spirituality Summit, I am reminded that there is more love somewhere, that there is more hope somewhere. And even in the darkness, even in the uncertainty and fear of what is to come, even in our fervent preparations for a storm of unknown magnitude, there is still joy. The darkness may be all around us, but it is not in us. We can still dance in the dark. We can still sing and laugh. We can still make music and read stories. We can still bake delicious treats and meals to share with others. We can still write poetry and share it. We can still take walks and hikes to be reminded of the vast, intense beauty that surrounds us. Valerie Carr is a prophet of our time. How many of you know Valerie Carr's work? Anyone? She's a Sikh activist whose work came into prominence following 9/11 in the wake of violence against her religious community. She's also the creator of the Revolutionary Love Project and author of her newest book, Sage Warrior. And she shared this wisdom in her process of writing this book. She said that she held the question, how did my ancestors survive apocalyptic times? And then shared that what surprised her most was the model of the Sant Sabahi, the sage warrior. The sage cultivates a space of freedom inside them, she says. A space of rest and pleasure and wonder and breath and possibility. And from there, the sage warriors in the world. And she spoke of her surprise discovering these ancient truths because as an activist, she thought she always had to respond to the world from the place of the wound. That because the world was in crisis, she thought her body had to be in crisis, that her pain had to match the pain of the world. But she notes that that particular orientation will break you down quickly and can easily turn you into the thing you are fighting against. To inhale the fumes of hostility that you're trying to put out when you're always reacting from the wound. But what Valerie learned, what she reminds us of in her writing and in her book, is that there is a space of freedom inside us. There's a space of freedom inside you. And oppression wants us to believe that space of freedom inside us does not exist. And that if it did, you wouldn't deserve to live in it. Oppression wants us to believe that we have to be defined by our subjugation, but we can tell the truth of our suffering and refuse to be defined by it, and that's what our wisest ancestors did. She said they rested in that sovereign place inside of them, that place of freedom inside of them, and from there they sang. They marched, they organized, and they labored. And they insisted on their worth and their dignity in a world that would deny it. That's the kind of ancestral wisdom we're all going to need in the days and weeks and months and years to come. To practice freedom inside us and in the space between us. And that is exactly the space in which drag comes alive. A claiming of the freedom that exists inside all of us and between us. Insisting on their worth and dignity in dancing and singing and reading and strutting and flaming and slaying in complete and total joyful resistance. So what are your tools to cultivate the sage inside you? You got to make your list. You got to find your practice. You got to know how you're going to breathe from here on out. You got to know who you're going to breathe with. You got to gather your people so that you can play the role you were meant to play, and play it with fierce, unrelenting, powerful joy. May it be so. Amen. The beauty of already being in beloved community here each week is that we have already gathered our people. I know who I'm going to breathe with and practice with and sing with and claim freedom with. And this isn't the only community we've got. We can go and create these communities of joyful sage warriors as we go. And if we need to refuel, we can go to a drag show. I know who I am going to pray with and dance with and fight with. And I'm going to hold tight to the wisdom and resistance and love ignited in me by our drag community. So this Apple Communion ritual today in particular is a chance for us to claim all of that, to honor our deep connection to each other, our holy interdependence, and the fierce joy found in beloved community. So you will be invited as the music plays to come forward and choose an apple, the one that speaks to your heart. But don't eat it yet because we wait to do that together. But in the spirit of this service, find your joy. Get a high five or hug a friend on the way up or back from the table. Dance to the music. Claim the freedom that lives within all of us. Let it loose. Let our Apple Communion ritual begin. Sorry, we're doing something. Yeah, we're gonna all take our bite together. Friends, do me a favor and hold your apples up in the air for a minute. Okay, stay right there. Okay, selfie. Cool, thanks. I never get enough pictures of this moment. So we choose apples for this ritual because they carry so much symbolism for our lives and particularly for this season. In the Jewish tradition, they're a symbol of beauty and sweetness and the hope for prosperity. The hardiness of the fruit and its durability represents strength and growth. In Turkey, a red apple is called the kizil elma, which means desire, and it can also refer to the quest for establishing justice, peace, and order for Islam. Apples are often seen as the fruit of wisdom, and in some mythologies, the fruit of love. So there's a lot here in this little apple that is going to represent, and we're going to nourish our spirits and our bodies with all that it represents. So take a moment to smell your apple. Maybe you can smell it. And that beautiful scent of fall. And as we get ready to take our bite together, I invite you to think for a moment, to welcome all that your apple and this beloved community represents to you, and tune in to that collective crunch together. Okay, are we ready? Here we go. 1, 2, 3. I love this little tiny baby apple. And you can also look at this apple as you're eating with its missing bites, thinking of the generosity of that beautiful apple tree of our earth that provides rain and snows that have fallen in the soil that has nourished the tree that now nourishes us. As you continue to eat your apples, Bonnie Violet and I invite you to join us in the spirit of collective prayer. When I spit apple everywhere. This beautiful annual traditional reading that comes to us by the now deceased beautiful colleague of mine, the Reverend Max Coots. Let us give thanks for a bounty of people, for our children who are our second planting, and though they grow like weeds and the wind too soon blows them away, may they forgive us our cultivation and fondly remember where their roots are.
Let us give thanks for generous friends with hearts and smiles as bright as their blossoms.
For feisty friends, as tart as apples. For continuous friends who, like scallions and cucumbers, keep reminding us that we've had them.
For crotchety friends, sour as rhubarb and as indestructible. For handsome friends who are as gorgeous as eggplants and as elegant as a row of corn, and the others as plain as potatoes and so good for you.
For funny friends who are as silly as Brussels sprouts and as amusing as Jerusalem artichokes.
And serious friends as unpretentious as cabbages, as subtle as summer squash, as persistent as parsley, as delightful as dill, as endless as zucchini, and who, like parsnips, can be counted on to see you through the winter.
For old friends, nodding like sunflowers in the evening time, and young friends coming on as fast as radishes.
For loving friends who wind around us like tendrils and hold us despite our blights, wilts, and witherings.
And finally, for those friends now gone, like gardens past that have been harvested, but who fed us in their times, that we might have life thereafter. For all these, we give thanks. Amen.
Amen.
I know you're eating, but we're going to invite you to sing along with our closing video this morning in the spirit of joy. And so, you choose your own adventure, but it's a video. They'll sing as you. This is a video called This Joy. It's an old gospel hymn given to us by the Resistance Revival Chorus, which is a collective of more than 60 women and non-binary singers who joined together to breathe joy and song into the resistance and to uplift and center women's voices. So let us joyfully sing into that resistance together.
This joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me. Oh, this joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me. Don't you know that? This joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me. Oh, I said the world didn't give it, the world can't take it away. Oh, this strength that I have, this strength that I have, this strength that I have. Oh yeah, now the world didn't give it to me. The world didn't give it to me. This strength that I have. Oh yeah, the world didn't give it to me. The world didn't give it to me. This strength that I have. Oh yeah, the world didn't give it to me. Oh, I said the world didn't give it. The world can't take it away. Oh, this love that I have. This love that I have. Oh yeah, now the world didn't give it to me. The world didn't give it to me. This love that I have. Oh yeah, the world didn't give it to me. Don't you know that? This love that I have, yeah, the world didn't give it to me. Singing, the world didn't give it, the world can't take it away. Oh, this pride that I have, this pride that I have, this pride that I have. Oh yeah, now the world didn't give it to me. The world didn't give it to me. This pride that I have, I said the world didn't give it to me. Don't you know that? This pride that I have, yeah, the world didn't give it to me. Oh, I said the world didn't give it, the world can't take it away. All this peace that I have, oh, yeah. The world didn't give it to me. The world didn't give me my peace that I have. Oh yeah, now the world didn't give it to me. Won't you sing about peace that I have? Oh yeah, now the world didn't give it to me. I said the world didn't give it, the world can't take it away. All this joy that I have, this joy that I have.
Get down, program. Let's go back there.
The world didn't give it to me. The world didn't give it to me. No, I said the world didn't give it to me. Don't you know that this joy that I world can't take it away.
Didn't give it and the world can't take it away.
World didn't give it, the world can't take it away.
Didn't give it and the world can't take it away.
The world didn't give it, the world can't take it away.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, friends. I'm going to invite you to place your hands over your heart. And for this particular closing blessing today, I'm going to go out on a limb here and invite, if you're comfortable and you feel like that this would be a lovely moment for you, for our friends who identify as trans, non-binary, gender expansive drag artists, to come up and join Bonnie Violet and I up here for our closing blessing. Yes, I see some proud walkers up there. It came right on out. Thank you, loves. Come on up. Come on up. So you gotta let Bonnie Violet get to the microphone. This closing blessing comes to us from Cricket Hall. May the drag stage rise to meet you. May the world rise to accept and embrace you. May the rainbow of love enfold you. May your fluidity never be hindered.
May your pronouns always be supported and your chosen names treasured and celebrated. May those you invite into your life remain loyal. May your chosen family lift you up and catch you when you need it. May you be able to catch others when they need it. May you remember sensitivity is not a weakness, but instead a great strength welling up inside you.
May you seize the fierce joy and freedom that lives inside you and share it with each other and the world. Until we meet again, may you remember that you are loved and you are divine. Blessed are we all. Go in peace.
Thanks for coming up, everyone. Oh, thank you.
You beautiful humans are up here with us. So gorgeous. I loved it.
How long does it take to put in those eyelashes?
Eyelashes, like a couple minutes. There, yeah, lashes.